Don't start. Okay, Mr. Chairman, I yield back. At least I'm not a scientist, I'm just saying. I have a hypothetical scenario which I want each of y'all to answer yes or no to. It's a question that's pretty simple. Let's say a cell phone company wants to test which phone produces data faster, an Apple, iPhone, or a Samsung Galaxy. Samsung reaches out to the phone company and says, we can help you figure out which one's faster. Samsung will supply you with 2 iPhones and 2 Galaxies. We suggest you process this particular data and complete the test within this time frame. The cell phone company, without contacting Apple, okay, conducts the test in accordance with Samsung's suggestions, finding, surprise of all surprises, that the Samsung is 10 times faster. The cell phone company then markets to you, the consumer, that the Samsung Galaxy is hereby declared 10 times faster than the Apple iPhone, according to that study. If you were made aware of the circumstances of that cell phone study, would you trust that cell company's marketing statement that the Samsung was 10 times faster than the iPhone? Is it Tsang?
Yes, Congressman.
Would you trust that study?
I can only speak to the legal requirements related to the rulemaking, unfortunately.
Are you also a scientist? I'm just kidding. No. So, Mr. Long?
No.
Dr. Miller?
On your assumption that that's what EPA did, I would say, no, that would be wrong.
All right.
EPA did not do
Do you carry an iPhone or a Samsung?
I've done both. Actually, I do have both.
Okay. Dr. Belzer?
I tend to distrust all marketing, so I would treat this claim the same way I treat all other claims.
You say you can or can't?
I would distrust all of it.
All marketing.
All marketing claims.
Okay.
In the same way that I often have a skeptical regard to preambles of regulation.
So that means your wife tells you what to buy?
No, not on technology.
No? Okay, I'm just checking. Well, look, it seems very interesting to me. We've got older engine. By the way, Mr. Long, you'll be interested in this. I owned an air conditioning company for 35 years, sold it a year ago. We've dealt with the EPA on refrigerant requirements and all kinds of stuff, had trucks and the whole 9 yards. Some friends of mine at church got me into the hot shot business. I ran a trucking company for a short time until I ran for the Texas legislature, and then I couldn't keep building it. So I've been down those roads. I've been Tex dotted, US dotted, and everything else. So I have trucking industry experience. Does this set a precedent where no older engines are able to be used for anything, antique cars? Are we afraid of that? What do you think, Mr. Long?
No, because drivers will just continue to use their current engines, or they'll buy used trucks with older engines as well.
Well, sure. Shouldn't we really be reluctant to change what small business owners are allowed to do, of which I was one of, allowed to do without knowing that we for sure have enough reliable information / studies? Shouldn't we really be reluctant to change that?
Absolutely, and I think our members would say that accounts for all trucking policies, not just this one.
Dr. Miller, would you agree that we absolutely need enough concise, concrete evidence before we change this?
I think we have it. And to your earlier question about, do you think it affects antique car owners? No, it doesn't. Those are old cars. There's no question about that. We're talking about
But they use old engines.
old cars with old engines.
And these are old engines that go in new trucks.
Right,
If
but
you read
those are the first certificates of ownership, titles transferred for those gliders. You don't have that with an antique car. It wouldn't be covered.
Well, if you read what the EPA was claiming, and by the way, I was on the Environmental Reg Committee there in Texas before I got demoted to Congress, and Gary Palmer was right. We don't know what causes asthma, but we have reduced our NOx and greenhouse gases a lot. And we have an increase in asthma. So are we maybe too worried without that proof I'm talking about? So what does it? How many more studies should we go through? Does that include an economic impact study, in your opinion, Dr. Miller? Should we have an economic impact study? I know you all talked about it's hard, or maybe it was Dr. Belzer said it's hard to make that calculation. But before we interrupt that business practice, shouldn't we have a study in that regard as well?
I would assert that we have that information. We have the cost of essentially a post-2010 engine emissions control, and that's from 2000.
Yeah.
We have that cost, which is essentially what presumably one could use as a basis for a cost to the glider kit industry. It's about $670 per engine. People may think that's low, so double it, triple it. Say it's about $2,000. That's fine, because if you're interested in small businesses, if we allow that amount of emissions from glider kits that could be controlled for less than $2,000, in my region, we're already controlling small businesses that start at $2,000 per ton or more.
Where's your region?
It's the Northeast. So we're talking New York, New Jersey, and apparently the rich folks of New England, which I don't know.
I notice you're not wearing a bow tie, and he is.
I'm actually from Texas.
I got you.
But putting that aside, these are cost savings, I will say, for folks who are using pre-emission control. I don't disagree with that. They're simpler engines. They're dirtier engines. They're simpler engines. They're easier to maintain. But those cost savings aren't absolute. Those are cost shifts. They're cost shifts to public health impacts. You talk about the incidence of asthma going up, but pollution going down. I take that as there are more people with asthma, so it's more important to address the pollution that's affecting those people. So I take that as even more of a reason to move forward. On the small business side, we're already controlling or asking small businesses in our region to control at costs well above what it looks like it would cost to bring glider kits up to modern pollution standards. That's going to have impacts on people's jobs. We have to meet these standards to protect public health.
Well, we're going to disagree about that, Mr. Chairman. I'm well over my time, so thank you very much for your indulgence.